Welcome to Red Sox Digest, the only show where pain, sarcasm, and a dash of hope collide nightly like a Trevor Story strikeout. We cover every loss, every meltdown, and yes, even the rare win, with brutally honest takes and zero front office fluff. Subscribe today at RedSoxDigest.com or risk being left out in the cold like a home game in April. And now, here's the crew at Red Sox Digest.
Good evening, sports fans, and welcome to another edition of Red Sox Digest. I'm your host tonight, Jim Dalfino, and I'm the only man who somehow manages to sound both like a seasoned broadcaster and like a guy who just lost his way to the concession stand. I've got all the charm of a Fenway bathroom line in the seventh inning and about the same amount of patience. Joining me tonight is Nick Face. Ah, yes, Nick Face. If talking were a stat, Nick wouldn't just lead the league, he'd shatter records, demand arbitration, and still complain he's underpaid. He's the guy who hates losing so much, he'd argue with the scoreboard operator if the Sox were down. You could put Nick in a room with a cardboard cutout of J.D. Drew, and somehow he'd find a way to pick a fight with it. Passionate? Absolutely. Logical? About as often as the Sox bullpen closes a game cleanly. Also joining me tonight is Nick Diamond. He's the guy that is sharp enough to see through the Sox front office smoke screens faster than the rest of us can say bridge year. Nick's the guy who actually remembers the players' ages, contracts, and injury histories, while the rest of us are just yelling at the bullpen to throw strikes. If the Sox make a dumb move, Nick calls it out immediately. He's basically the voice of reason here, which probably says more about the rest of us than it does about him. Let's get into it. Your Boston Red Sox are now 68 and 57, sitting 5 games behind the Toronto Blue Jays for the division lead. Saturday night, the Sox pulled out a 7-5 win over the Marlins at Fenway. Trevor Story crushed a 3-run shot. Roman Anthony and Alex Bregman both collected 2 hits, and Brian Bayo steadied the mound with 6 1/3 innings that just allowed 2 runs. Good to see the bats swinging and the pitches sticking to their guns for once. But of course, Sunday came and reminded us who's boss. The Sox tanked 5-3 after leading most of the way. Garrett Crochet was nails, 7 innings, 8 Ks, 1 run, basically throwing like he was auditioning for Cy Young's ghost. Willie Abreu hit his 22nd bomb and looked locked in right up until he left with a calf injury because apparently Fenway players come with fragile stickers now. Then came the ninth. Dane Myers tied with a solo shot. Jacob Marcy followed with a 2-run haymaker that made Sox fans wish MLB had a mercy roll. Final score, Red Sox lose 5-3, Marlins avoid the sweep, and Boston fans avoid happiness. So here's the bottom line, folks. Alex Cora went full galaxy brain yesterday and brought in Isaiah Campbell, known around these parts as Mr. He Sucks. And look, we all know what happens when Campbell's name gets called. Runs get coughed up faster than a Fenway vendor dropping change. The problem wasn't just Campbell being Campbell. It's that Cora's genius move forced him to burn Aroldis Chapman to bail it out. That meant today, when the game actually mattered in the ninth, Chapman was sitting there unavailable because Cora decided yesterday's random middle inning was the hill to die on. Now fast forward to today's ninth inning, Garrett Crochet dealt 7 strong, the offense scratched across just enough, and we should have been able to hand it to Chapman to lock things down. But no, instead, we had to rummage through the back of the bullpen like you're grabbing for mystery leftovers in the fridge, and it ended exactly how you'd expect. Home runs flying, game blown, Sox lose. So we're going to start a new segment today, and Nick, we're going to start with you. This is going to be Nick Face's word of the day. And
now it's time for Nick Face's word of the day.
And
my voice doesn't get that high. I just want to make sure that that's crystal clear across the board. So thank you to the announcer for putting that lovely piece together.
Go ahead, Nick. The floor is yours.
Drum roll, please. And no, this is not Sesame Street. It's not brought to you by that. The word of the day is wussification, gentlemen. I define wussification as not giving it your all, making an excuse, making some sort of a play or putting a player into a situation where he should have really been in because you feel that they really just can't get out there and get their job done. Wussification came today with a couple different ways. The first one that ticked me off was Alex Bregman not being in the lineup. I get it. He's coming back from the quad. You want to manage it and everything. This guy's a gamer. If you went to Alex Bregman today and he told you that he wanted to be in the lineup and he had to fight Cora about being out of it, I would believe him. I would believe him. He should have been in that lineup. Should have put him right there. If you were that concerned about it, DH him over your number 4 hitter, Masataka Yoshida. Give me a break. Number 2, Aroldis Chapman is, without question, the healthiest, most athletic, most durable rubber arm that you have on your pitching staff outside of Crochet. He threw 14 pitches Friday night, and then yesterday happened to bail out Isaiah, we don't want to see you ever again, Campbell. I understand he threw 2 days. I get that. But this is a professional major league player. He's not a baby doll. He doesn't have a diaper as far as I'm concerned. He needed to be out in that game. You knew the situation going into this. You knew point blank what you needed to do, and that was to sweep and take care of business, and you failed. The other thing that I was pissed about was how Cora also managed this entire game. As almost like a getaway. I would kind of define Wussification as the getaway. I don't care. Let me put my feet up. It's not important. Who gives a crap? That's how I look at it that way. And that's the entire vibe. That's the entire way I looked at this game today. They didn't want to give it their all. They didn't give a crap. They were satisfied, guys, by taking 2 of 3 from the Marlins. And yet here I am, and I'm sure we'll get into this. They took 2 of 3, but I'm absolutely furious how this weekend went. Furious. I thought it was a complete pile of dog shit that you saw outside of your pitching from your starters. That was bounce back. Your lineup sucked. Well, yesterday, having to put Isaiah Campbell in and him blowing up sucked. Today, the whole outlook of it sucked. S-U-C-K. Unacceptable. So the word of the day was wussification.
Nick Diamond, your opening takes for this weekend series.
Well, I see a lot of posts on Twitter saying that winning 2 out of 3 is all that matters and taking the series is all that matters. But when Garrett Crochet bounces back like he did today, goes out there and posts 7 strong innings, he had 13 swings and misses, 8 strikeouts. He was dominant all day. He only had 94 pitches. We could talk about Alex Cora should have left him out there all he wants, or if Whitlock should have pitched the 9th, or if even Aroldis Chapman should have been out there, because I agree Aroldis Chapman should have been out there. But when you have a performance like that by Garrett Crochet, you need to sweep a series. You have to, especially when the Blue Jays lost today. The Blue Jays were down 8-2 with Eovaldi on the mound with the Rangers in the 7th inning, and the Red Sox had a 3-1 lead going into the 9th inning, and they couldn't finish it off. It should have been Aroldis Chapman, but who cares if it was Aroldis Chapman or not? Greg Weissert was horrible. Steven Matz was horrible. And you can even go back to the day before with Isaiah Campbell. So it was a whole letdown. The Red Sox deserved to sweep this series. They should have swept this series. They're more talented than the other team. But unfortunately, bullpen was piss poor, and they just didn't get the job done today.
Yeah, just kind of like parlaying off what you said. Alex Cora doesn't seem to be managing, at least with the bullpen, with some sense of urgency. And I'll give you even just a lineup as well to Nick Face's point about the B lineup. I'm really tired about this because in a period of time that we are in now where we have an extra wild card, one game can really make such a difference as it relates to whether you actually are playing October baseball or you are having home field advantage. And we can go back and dissect probably a good 15 ball games that should have went our way that didn't, just because of poor mismanagement, poor roster construction, poor bullpen mismanagement, and more. You know, I said this in the opening monologue, and I'd like a couple of your opinions on it as well. When you are Alex Cora and you have a relatively good lead, but you bring in a mop-up guy, a guy like Isaiah Campbell, who wasn't even on this roster to begin this season, and he comes in and just starts giving up hits and left and right. And then you have no choice but to wind up going to Chapman to close it out, which is an embarrassment of riches because he should have never even seen the bullpen or have warmed up in that ball game. The problem is that it's always about the repercussions down the road. And this is one of the things that I argue with Red Sox Twitter about because they don't see, the forest beyond the trees. And you wind up burning Chapman, like I said earlier today, and as a result, you don't have him today when you really needed him. And you had Whitlock earlier in that game, and he could have closed it out. So I'd like your opinion and your take on that. Nick Diamond, you first on the bullpen mismanagement over the last few games.
Well, the fact is, Isaiah Campbell should not have even been on the roster. He's been bad for the last 2 years. He's been bad going back to, like, the first few weeks of 2024. I remember when he blew the Orioles blew it completely open against, Isaiah Campbell, giving him, like, 5 or 6 runs in, like, the 8th or ninth inning. He's just been bad. He's been bad ever since he's been on the Red Sox. I know we gave up nothing for him. It was a Luis Urias trade, a guy who we would probably have non-tendered. So I'm sick of seeing him on the roster. We're really one arm short, and the Red Sox and Greg Breslow and the Red Sox didn't go out there at the deadline and acquire an arm. We're really banking on Slayton coming back and dominating, which we haven't had an update in like a week or two. The last I heard was he had a bullpen or he faced live batters on Fenway in full uniform. I think that was the last update we had. But um, it's still going to be a while until we get him on the field playing for the Red Sox. So it's really unfortunate that Cora has lack of options here, and you can't just keep going with guys like Isaiah Campbell. And today we made another move with Nate Eaton. I'm surprised we brought a guy like Nate Eaton back before Brennan Bernardino. It's been 15 days. We could bring Bernardino back. He's just rotting away in AAA. I don't know what Greg Breslow has against him. Remember last year when they left him off the opening day roster? Now they sent him down. He's not been bad. He's been worn out. They used him a lot, but he's not been bad this year. He's been better than what we got. He was better than Greg Weissert recently, who's not been good. I know you want to get into that, how bad Greg Weissert's been. I don't even think Steven Matz is that good. I know he gave up his bomb today. He's been good so far, except today, but it was a left-on-left home run. The one thing he's supposed to be good at is facing lefties, and he gave up a home run today to a lefty. So the Red Sox do need more in the bullpen. Besides Whitlock and Chapman, it's kind of thin out there.
Face your reactions to the last two games, the mismanagement of the bullpen.
I think it starts with the whole entire organization if we really want to hit it out of the park on this. It's a complete lack of awareness on what's ahead of and what's in front of them. Where is Cooper Criswell? Where is he, guys? You're telling me that Isaiah Campbell is better than Cooper Criswell, who could have given you innings and at least would give somewhat of a trust from me on getting a job done. Where is he? What is going on? That's number one for me. Then I look at Bernardino as well, too, because I can at least give the Red Sox the benefit of the doubt in a way, and I'm saying that in a way because they're a little lefty heavy. You have Justin Wilson, you got Chapman, you've got Steven Matz. I get that. But I need guys that can get the job done and we trust. I was flipping out after Crochet went out of this game today. Flipping out because he was at 94 pitches and he still looked like he had enough in the tank to give me an eighth. So I'm looking at that situation. I'm saying, okay, if they're really going to baby this with Chapman, I'll stomach it so long as Whitlock is my guy for the ninth. And then I see Whitlock come out for the eighth, and I'm pacing back and forth in my I don't know where I was. Was it at my store or I was in the yard or something? And when I get mad when I see a situation going on, just get away from me. Don't even come near me. You don't want to talk to me because I already know the situation on how it's going to play out. I like to plan ahead as best I can. I like to look at matchups. I like to see what's coming up and how to kind of prepare. I don't feel like Cora knows what the hell he's doing. I feel like he's rolling the dice in the dugout. Okay, if this one comes up Weissert, he's going to throw the seventh tonight. Let's roll it again. This one's coming up Justin Wilson. He's going to be my eighth. Okay, I don't have Chapman. Let's see what's going to happen here. Oh, this dice rolled on Steven Matz. You can't manage a team like this, never mind a major league team. So it's definitely looking at the organization as a whole and understanding what's in front of you. And I look at, of course, Breslow. with a horrible trade deadline. Your stat nerds who are probably in Cora's ear, left and right, saying, play the matchup. This one's going to be here. This one's 3 for 10. This one's 1 for 9. And then it's actually Cora making the decisions and his decisions backfiring. I don't think we've ever fully had confidence in Cora since he became manager in 2018 in effectively managing rosters and effectively managing bullpens. I even remember back in 2018 when Craig Kimbrell was a mess and we were trying to figure out how the heck we're going to make this happen. I remember dealing with it in the championship series against the Astros. And then, of course, in the World Series and everything, too. If it wasn't for your Evaldi's and then Chris Sales shutting the door against the Dodgers to win that, nobody really had confidence in Kimbrell at that time, but nobody also had confidence in Cora in figuring out what he was going to do with the players that he has in front of him. So it's definitely at a point where, I mean, today it came back to bite them big time, but it scares me half to death knowing if we get to the playoffs and how this is going to be managed again, because there's just no plan, guys. It's, oh, he's thrown 14 pitches. That poor arm of his. He's so old. It's absolutely insane. We didn't do this with Koji back in 2013. I don't remember that. The guy had a rubber arm, and so doesn't Chapman. The guy is as healthy as an ox. If he tells you he can't go into a game, then you take his word for it. But let me tell you, he did not look very happy when he was in the bullpen, having to watch what he saw. That guy wanted the ball.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt the fact that if Cora asked Chapman if he was available for tonight, Chapman would have said yes. I think he's a
That was
gamer.
the organization itself. The organization itself sat Chapman down.
Yeah.
100%.
And the problem
Pisses
with
me
it is
off.
and the problem with it is that Cora has this mentality of worried too far about the future and not about the current. You've got to win the games that you are set up to win right then and there. You can't worry about tomorrow all the time. I mean, I understand you want to set up your bullpen and so forth and your rotation, but if you're in a situation like you were today, I don't know how you look at that and say, I'm going to use Whitlock for the 8th and then Weissert for the 9th. And that's where I want to parlay into with Greg Weissert. You know, in safe situations, opponents have a 272 batting average, a 352 on base, and an 833 OPS against Weissert, again, in safe situations. So he's clearly not a guy that you want to rely upon in those instances. Nick Diamond, why not have him in the 8th and have, Garrett Whitlock close in the 9th if you weren't going to go to Chapman?
In my opinion, the real question is, why is it not Justin Wilson, who's been way better recently? I know he's your lefty guy, but you have multiple lefties. You went to Steven Matz in the end instead of Justin Wilson. Maybe that was another guy they wanted to stay away from, but the way they managed the bullpen today was weird. The way they used it yesterday is weird. I don't agree with it. I would have just gone with Chapman, like you said. I think everybody agrees that he was probably available if you asked Chapman. I know Cora definitely didn't want to pitch him, but you go with your best guys in a pennant race. You have to win the division. You have these the Blue Jays at the end of the season with a chance to win the division. You win as many games as possible. If you look, okay, let's look at this. If the Red Sox are 18 out of their last 22 games they've won at Fenway Park, you want home field advantage in the playoffs if you get the playoffs. So if you win the division, that guarantees you home field advantage, at least in the first round and possibly the second round of the playoffs. Every game is important. You wanted to win today. You have to go with Chapman. You have to go with, in my opinion, I'd rather have Whitlock 2 innings than ever see Weissert in a save situation. He's been bad for the last 2.5 months. I know he's been valuable for the Red Sox. He's been valuable. If you look at the trade where you got him, they've maybe won that trade. You gave up for Dugout for him. So, yeah, it was a win trade, but I don't like to see him in high leverage situations. He's your 6th inning in it guy when your starter didn't have a good outing. I even rather have seen Garrett Crochet in the 8th inning there. 94 pitches. At least he starts the inning, gets to 100, 105 pitches, maybe gets 1 or 2 outs. I think that's a better option than Craig Weissert at all. You said maybe in the 8th. I don't like him at all in that situation.
Yeah, no, I don't either. But, I would have rather had, Whitlock in the 9th than I've had him. So it's just one of those things where it's constant mismanagement by Cora. And my biggest gripe with him is that He doesn't play and manage with a sense of urgency. I just don't see it. Switching gears a little bit, just talking about Marcelo Mayer, because there's a couple parts here to this conversation that I want to kind of dial in. The first thing, we know he's going to be going for season-ending wrist surgery, and just a week ago he was, you know, having playing catch, and the wrist support was off, and so forth. He's expected to be ready for spring training in 2026. He's down. The team is down. Nick Face, what worries me in this situation is a couple things. Number one, if you are going to go and re-sign Alex Bregman and Bregman wants to stay here, Marcelo Mayer might become a very good, valuable trade chip for you in the offseason. This impending wrist surgery certainly ruins any chance of that. He's been hurt at the end of the last 3 seasons, dating back to his time in the minor leagues. And the other thing to parlay, and I'll ask Nick Diamond about it afterwards, with him he put it in the situation room, with him going on the 60-day IL, it does open up a roster spot for someone like Nathaniel Lowe. So, Nick Face, take me through your thoughts on Marcelo Mayer.
Well, did you guys hear what he said during his interview pregame with, I think it was Will Fleming and Sean McDonough earlier today? And he said that he knew his wrist was bad and likely needed surgery right when it happened in that Phillies series. So here we go, yet again, with our medical experts here with the Red Sox. Delay, 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 delay. Let's just infuse this. Let's do this and dance around the whole thing. At the end of the day, yeah, if he needed wrist surgery about a month ago, I mean, I get it. The reason they didn't want to do it was because of the trade deadline. That's why. And now you look at the situation and you say, if it had played itself out right, would Marcelo Mayer be a Minnesota Twin right now? And Joe Ryan would be here. It was a very tough situation when this injury popped up. I think it was only like 2 or 3 days before the trade deadline, something like that. So that's why, or maybe it was about a week. Maybe it was about a week. But that definitely was a talking point that I'm sure other teams wanted to know, what's the status here with Marcelo Mayer? What's the status? Because I'm sure people are interested. I personally think his trade value has completely plummeted to the point you're not going to really have anything good in return now for him. So that's the situation where you're at. I just don't think you'll see the Twins want to take him on, or either another team, without knowing what he can do after the wrist is healed and he gets back on the diamond. The only comparison that I can give you from past players that had this same sort of situation pop up, I don't know the severity here. I'm not a medical expert. None of us really are here on this kind of whole, orthopedic sort of thing. But it was Nomar back in 2001.
Yes, I am.
Well, are you for this, for the wrist? You are.
I work in a lot of.
Then you are. Then you are the medical expert. I thought you were in a different kind of doctorial role. But the whole thing here with the wrist compares to me on Nomar back in 2001. And I remember as a kid, I loved Nomar. I was devastated because he started the year, and I think it was early parts, or actually it was later parts of April when that happened. He was done. We didn't see him the rest of the season. And then 2002, he kind of got back, but he wasn't the same player, and really never was the same player again. It's a tough injury to come back to and be a stellar player. It is. And that's what concerns me here over the long haul, because I think the Red Sox ideally want to see what he could do at second base and him settle into that position. But I even think going into the offseason, they have a lot of question marks to fill with that, because who knows what kind of player he's going to be. He's going to likely have to start in Worcester, rehab, see what happens there to build up any sort of value again. It's devastating for the guy and for the organization.
Yeah, no doubt. My other concern is that at 21 years of age, here you've got a wrist injury. He's had a shoulder injury. He's had a hamstring injury. So a lot of these older injuries are creeping up on a very young and talented individual. And I just think the Red Sox missed the boat on him. I think he should have been a trade chip early on. a couple years ago, or at least last year, and I think we're losing out. Nick Diamond, I wanted to ask you a similar question on that and your thoughts, but I also wanted to parlay it into another thing that hit Twitter today was that Connor Wong, Alex Cora said that Connor Wong all of a sudden now may be playing first base and the infield positions, and how that plays a role in the possibility of the Red Sox maybe not going after a guy like Lowe.
If the Red Sox truly believe that Connor Wong's a better offensive and defensive player than even Abraham Toro, they're delusional. That's what my take is. And it's really weird that they want to put Connor Wong out there and keep Ali Sanchez over getting a guy like Nathaniel Lowe or even bringing up Christian Campbell from the minor leagues. I think bringing up the password is a little premature. He played his first game at first base today in Worcester. I just think that's a little premature. But Christian Campbell, who's a guy who's already been in the major leagues, I think he should slot in at first base there. I think anybody over Connor Wong is a good idea. I think it's a logical take just to go get Nathaniel Lowe with Marcelo Mayer just slotting into a 60-day IL role now and moving Nathaniel Lowe onto the 40-man roster. I don't think he signs a minor league deal. I think it has to be a major league deal if you want to get Nathaniel.
I mean, as far as Lowe's concerned, I mean, obviously he's not going to jump off the page, but he's a couple of years removed from hitting 300 with 20 or 25 home runs, whatever it was. He's been a decent bat, for most of his career. Again, it is the Washington Nationals. It is a team that's going nowhere. Perhaps if you go ahead and you sign him to a contract and bring him aboard, that it reignites him a little bit. I don't know. But the bottom line here is it's worth taking a shot on someone like him. But to your point, you were talking about Christian Campbell, which is another thing I wanted to parlay into. Nick Face, I want to get your comments on this. It's also been told today that Nate Eaton, who has been hitting pretty well in AAA, but can't really play third base in the majors, he's being called up. Why is he getting the nod over Christian Campbell?
Probably didn't want my Wong take and to know that my remote survived our last show, but I'll throw it again just because why not? Nick throws the remote section. If they ever put Wong at first base, I'm done. I'm done. I'm packing it in. I'm all set. I will not watch another ounce of this team if that's what they decide to do on that. Now with the whole Nate Eaton thing, I don't get this either. I'll go back to my point too. I think that Campbell, they're still waiting till September 1 for some reason with. Why? I don't get it. I don't know. I would bring him up. I would have brought him up 2 weeks prior. That's just how I am. And Toro being here is still an absolute joke. I think for Nate Eaton, what you saw from him coming up was he was steady at least. He didn't set the world on fire. I think he hit about 250. I remember him in the National Series a little bit. I think he had 6 hits over like 20 something at bats. But he didn't really leave an impression with me. I don't know if he did to you guys. And again, I look at the whole situation here on the depth chart here, it's still a joke to me because here's Nate Eaton coming up before a Vaughn Grissom, a Christian Campbell. I'll even say his name again, our guy that can't bunt to save a lick, David Hamilton. He's even over David Hamilton right now. So this it's a mystery on how you understand the logic that goes into these moves on when players are coming up and when they're not. I mean, even when Roman Anthony wasn't up here, I think the both of us, all three of us were probably like, is he even going to be coming up this season at one point, Roman Anthony? And then he finally came up. It's a big question mark. And again, it's another organizational cluster bleep because they don't have a plan. They don't. I mean, look, you got Password now at first base. He didn't start there. He's just there because organizationally they don't have any depth, so they got to find a spot for him. You've had David Hamilton up and down like a seesaw this season. You haven't seen Vaughn Grissom at all. It's the biggest question mark joke going on right now. I mean, even look at your pitchers. Cooper Criswell gave you one great start, and see you later. You're back to Worcester. You don't even exist anymore, guy. I just don't get it.
Yeah, look, I don't get it either. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. What problem does Nate Eaton solve? That's the number one issue. So, if you're going to continue to have, Bregman at third. If you're going to have Story at short, if you're going to have Romy Gonzalez at second or first and Toro and do what you've been doing, I just don't get what problem Nate Eaton solves here. You've got three catchers. They even said, I think, earlier in the year that he could possibly be a fourth if necessary. At some point, I
Oh,
heard something
joy.
about, yeah. So, but I just don't understand the point here. You need, if anything, a little bit more thump and a little bit more offense. And we brought this up on the podcast, I think probably a couple weeks ago, about trying the password at first base. And apparently our phones is tapped, or somebody on the Red Sox is listening to our podcast, because that's exactly what they did. And they realized that the future, he has no position in the outfield at all. And because of Yoshida being on this team and being in this organization for yet another season, he's completely blocked anybody else from coming up. So you have to go and you have to do a round robin with Roman Anthony at DH when you're not going to have him. Go ahead, Nick Diamond.
Well, with the Willie Abreu injury, we don't know how severe it really is yet. It makes it even more surprising that Nate Eaton was the guy called up, because maybe you'll see Rafaela back at center field full time and then you need a new second baseman. Has Nate Eaton played any second base? Campbell plays second base at least. I think it's really weird that Nate Eaton is the guy over Christian Campbell. And like we brought up Vaughn Grissom, I don't think that's ever going to happen again. I think they clearly think he can't play. And I think from the time I've seen him in the major leagues, I kind of agree he can't play in the major leagues. He's not a major league baseball player, but I don't think Nate Eaton is either. So I'd much rather see Christian Campbell in any role right now.
Yeah, again, it's just the roster construction. You just got to scratch your head left and right. I just don't understand who is making these decisions and what their thought process is, because you're never going to get the right answer on that either, which is totally ridiculous. Just switching gears a little bit, I want to go ahead and bring up the Orioles series, which starts tomorrow night. We have a 2-game series with the Orioles at home. It is going to be Dustin May against Rogers, and it's going to be Walker Buehler against Tomoyuki Sugano, I think is how you pronounce it. Trevor Rogers, 5-2 with a 1.43 ERA and a whip under 1. And Sugano is 10-5 with a 4.13 and a whip of 128. It's a short series. Nick Face, what's your take for this upcoming series with the Orioles?
I'm going to go, and you guys are probably going to say I'm out of my mind with it. I think the Orioles are going to sweep the Red Sox. I am. I'm going to say it. And I'm going to say it because think what happened here from this weekend here is it blew the bullpen. It did. And I'm even looking here at a Dustin May right now and trying to figure out how you're even going to piece together getting a 7th, 8th, 9 after all the ridiculous decisions that you made. So I'm going to say Dustin May will pitch okay. But now you have so many. I mean, Whitlock can't go tomorrow. He can't. How are you going to get to that? Weissert through. You got Chapman, potentially. Heaven forbid if they want to sit him, if they're going to sit him again after pitching 14 pitches. Who the hell knows? And then Walker Buehler. I'm sorry. I can't give you confidence at all still with saying that Walker Buehler is going to give you a quality start. I can't say it. Baltimore's been on a little bit of a, I know that they're not that great, but they've been playing a little bit better baseball. And they might just be coming into Fenway at the right time here for the Red Sox. You can call me crazy. That's fine. I'd rather be wrong. I'm going to go the Orioles are going to take 2. And we're going to be real mad. Real mad.
Nick Diamond, your thoughts and reactions for the upcoming 2-game series.
Trevor Rogers has been incredible lately. That's the guy the Orioles traded Kyle Stowers for to the Marlins, a guy who's an all-star this year, is kind of turning into a borderline superstar from the Marlins. He did get hurt in this series, so we didn't see much of him, but it looked like a lost trade for the Orioles a lot. So this trade coming into them, or for this series, he's been really good. 1.43 ER, just under 70 innings this season. So we're going to see a big right-handed heavy lineup. We're going to have Romy Gonzalez at second base, probably Toro at first. Bregman will be back. Rest Niner will be at DH, hopefully. Hopefully you'll have Rafaela in center field. And then we don't know what we'll do with Willier because he's probably going to miss the whole series, it looks like. I think he had his quote that said he'll hopefully aim to be back for the Yankees.
Back for the Yankees.
He'll be out for this series, but it wouldn't play anyways against this lefty. So I think we'll split, lose the game against Trevor Rogers, who's been really good. I guess Sugano is a guy who kind of throws meatballs, has decent stuff, or not a decent stats, 4.13 ERA, but doesn't strike out anybody. This is a guy hopefully the Red Sox can tee off on and not strike out a lot against him. So I'll take a split, but you never know.
Yeah, I agree with you, Nick Diamond. I think we're going to split this series, which is an unfortunate thing because these, again, are games that you should eat alive. The one thing that I am concerned about is that Bueller start. And to Nick Face's point, this is a type of situation where Bueller can come out and pitch really well in his last two starts and then face a crap team like the Orioles and get lit up for 4 runs in the first inning. And then it just sets the pace for the rest of the game. And then the Red Sox wind up losing both to the Orioles. So that is a concern. You really don't want that to happen, facing the Yankees next. You'd like to have some kind of positive momentum going into that series. So, the reality is they should win both, but I don't think they're going to. So I'm also going to go 1-1. So that's how that's going to look. Final thing, just a little bit that I want to talk about is a new section that we added to our podcast. And this goes out to some of the morons on Red Sox Twitter more so than anything. But this is our new segment, and I'd like to introduce you.
And now it's time for everyone's favorite segment, the Dugout Dipshits.
And so we're going to start today's Dugout Dipshit with some of our classics. Jimmy Dixmont said that Isaiah Campbell is a good pitcher. We talked about that today. We talked about the fact that if he wasn't in the game yesterday, we wouldn't have had Chapman, and you wouldn't have lost Chapman for today. Nick Face, is Isaiah Campbell a good pitcher?
Just goes and point with the guy's name. No, he's not, and he's never going to be. He'd have a tough time in the beer league, never mind the major leagues. And I really do think that Isaiah Campbell looks like the guy on the front page of the little animation thing. That's definitely going to be Isaiah's Campbell's future.
Exactly. I had a little argument today with Rick Saban, and he was telling me that Marcelo Mayer's surgery will be a great situation. He'll be back. And the fact that was written that on the tweet from Red Seat Radio, he wrote that, this isn't anything significant. And my quote is that anytime a baseball player gets surgery, it is significant. And of course, he argued with me that I didn't know what I was talking about, but hats off to you, Rick. I kind of do. So you are one of our dipshits today. And then the last one.
Is that Nick's brother, by the way? Did he get that update from Nick himself, Nick Saban?
It probably. And then last but not least is Tyler Milliken, a.k.a. Meatloaf, who said that our weekend series against the Miami Marlins, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I love the level of complacency. The fact that we find that that's good enough is not good enough for me. And that's what Cyndi Lauper used to say. Any final takes, Nick or Nick?
It's an unfortunate end to a series that had a lot of potential to sweep, and it's just, going into this Monday, it's not fun, I wish we won. We were winning all game for the most part, besides that one bad pitch that Crochet threw, and then the bullpen let us down. It's just unfortunate. It's sad. The Red Sox were looking for their 69th win. We'll have to wait till tomorrow to see if that can happen. I'm really excited for the 69th win, so we'll see you guys later on. But yeah, that's my final thought here.
Nick Face, your final takes or react?
I'm sure Nick is real excited for that 69th win. You party on, my friend. In another land. You know what I want? I want players to toughen up. I do. I want Crochet to go look at Cora. I am staying in this game. Like that. Why don't we see that anymore? Where's the John Lackey, the John Lester fight? You are not taking that ball out of my hand. Go compete. Where is it, guys? Where is Chapman? I will be in this game. Don't tell me otherwise. What are we afraid of? What are we afraid of? Alex Bregman could have done the same thing. Instead, we wuss around, my word of the day. Yeah, that's fine. Long haul, all we care about. Go out and win. Win today. I don't give a crap on what comes tomorrow. I don't. I don't understand it. So I just miss that. I miss that compete. I miss that give all, that Iron Man style baseball. And I don't think we're ever going to see it again until somebody in this league grows a pair, stands up for themselves, gets on the hill or gets in the box and tells their managers in the organization to shove it. You know, they're the ones making all the money and all the contracts and stuff here. If I was in my dream always as a kid was to be a major league player. It just never happened. You know, it is what it is. Still mad about it. But still, I would still have that compete and that fire that said, I got a contract. I have a contribution to this team. I have a will of the fans to make sure I'm out there to give my all and to compete and to win and do whatever it takes. I just don't. I feel there's a entire level of complacency that has reached a new low right now. And it's not just baseball. We see it in the NBA with load management. I think football's still a little bit tough enough. Hockey's still hockey. It's physical. You still see that's there. But for baseball and basketball, it's just insane. Insane to see what we're seeing right now.
No, you bring up a good point. I mean, you look at a football injury, you can get a hamstring injury. These guys are out for one game and they're back. You know, if it happens in baseball, they're out for 2, 3 months. You know, it's just they're just not built the same way as we've seen it with other sports. You know, just my closing take here, as far as it relates to the rest of this season. I really hope that the Red Sox get into the playoffs. And whether they win anything or not, I want these guys and these kids to get exposed to postseason baseball because I think moving forward, 26, 27, 28, it'll be a good experience that they'll have that behind them to learn from. The problem that I have here is the way that everything is coached and managed, and it is so much different the way that managers manage in the postseason because there is no tomorrow, you know, just like you heard in Rocky, right? There is no tomorrow, and I feel that when you get into the late months, late August, September, like we're in, the managers, and I'm really speaking about Cora here, needs to manage with more urgency. Worry about today, don't worry about tomorrow. And the reason why is I'm going to keep going back, and I'll probably have this tweeted out many times about the Campbell and Chapman situation because it's glaring. And it's the number one reason in my mind why you lost today. And you can't worry about the fact that, well, he needs a day off or so forth. What if you go out and you score 20 runs tomorrow and Chapman isn't needed? And then the next day you win 8-1 and Chapman isn't needed. And then the first game in the Yankee series, you win 9-2 and Chapman isn't needed. All of a sudden, he's got 4 or 5 days off. And Whitlock may have 4 or 5 days off. And you can get away with your Weiserts and, you know, your Steve Matzes and your Justin Wilsons and so forth. And that would be just fine. And us and the Red Sox Twitter won't even think twice about it. But when you get into a situation where the game is on the line and it's close and it's tight, this is what you got guys like Chapman for. This is what you turned you turned Garrett Whitlock into an eighth inning setup man for. These are the times where they have to make their money and be the guy that puts their foot on the throat of that ball game and does the job because that's why they're here and that's what you need them for. And it's very disappointing. And we're going to look at this game, hopefully not, but we're going to look at this game at the end of September, early October, and hopefully, just hopefully, it's not one of those games that we say, we're not in the playoffs because of that game, or we're not the number one seed because of that game. So I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I will be. Remains to be seen. But I just hope moving forward, Alex Cora will manage with more urgency, not only with the lineup. Bregman today, Nick, you brought it up, really pissed me off. You need the offense. This offense and this lineup does not have enough thump. He needs to be in there. And if he was able to be a defensive replacement, I say he could have been in that game the entire time. But that's me. That being said, I'm going to call it for tonight. I'd like to thank Nick and Nick being my co-hosts. I'd like to thank everybody who joined us today. Please go ahead and sign up for our newsletter at redsoxdigest.com. We have daily articles on the games that just happened, and we also have Fenway Flashback. Thayer is going over the 1975 season, and so it's a great read. Have a good night, everybody, and we will see you on Monday, tomorrow night. Have a good night.